Good morning, students.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. So, students, today we are going to study about Bloom's taxonomy, and let me share my presentation with you all.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Good morning. Just tell me if you can see the presentation.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, students, today we are going to study about Bloom's taxonomy of educational objectives. In your teachers training program, it is very important to know about Bloom's taxonomy, as Bloom's taxonomy is the basis of teacher training program. And if you are not aware of Bloom's taxonomy, then I really can't say surely that you are a good teacher or you are going to become a teacher. So, students, it is very important for all of you to understand about Bloom's taxonomy. So, let's start with it. In Bloom's taxonomy, students, today you will be understanding about different levels of educational objectives given by Bloom, which are cognitive, affective, and psychomotor levels. So, understand them very clearly. At the last of the lecture, we will be doing a very small activity. So, let's understand it a very clear way. Okay, so let's start about Bloom's taxonomy of educational objective. Bloom's taxonomy was, as its name is suggesting, it was given by Benjamin S. Bloom. You can see the picture of Benjamin S. Bloom on screen, and Bloom's taxonomy is actually classification of learning objective within education. So, students, just remember then when we are classifying the objectives, so objectives are actually not of the same level, they are of different types. So you have to understand what are the objectives of the particular content, particular chapter, or the lesson plan that you are going to teach on a particular day. Okay, so it is named after Benjamin Bloom. He edited the standard taxonomy of educational objectives. So the classification of objectives goes. Students, it's a wonderful taxonomy, and just remember when I always tell you that 3H in your mind. 3H. Please, any one of you, if you remember, what are the 3H I always been telling you in my classrooms?
Ma'am, ma'am,
Yes.
head, heart, and hand.
Very good, Bharti. Very good. I'm happy that
Thank you,
you
ma'am.
remember this. Head, heart, and hand. So please just tell me for revision purpose also that what does which part of Bloom's educational objective related to head?
Ma'am, cognitive.
Cognitive,
Cognitive. Very nice. And heart.
affective,
Affective,
Affective, ma'am.
Okay. And hand.
psychomotor,
psychomotor,
Very good, students. Very good. Okay, so this is about Bloom's taxonomy of educational objectives, that it is related to 3H. And students, my personal opinion is also this, that if you are really well versed with Bloom's taxonomy of educational objectives, then you will be a wonderful teacher, because by that time in the classroom, if you are understanding what is the cognitive level, affective level, and psychomotor level of your topic, then only you will be able to inculcate the right thing among your students, so this is actually something that you must take it by your heart. So let's continue with it. Bloom's Benjamin S. Bloom's associates were Cartwell, Marcia, and Simpson. This theory was also established by them, Cartwell, Marcia, and Simpson, but the name of this theory is related to Benjamin S. Bloom. So, Bloom produced the taxonomy of cognitive educational objectives in 1956. Remember it, 1956. And the taxonomy of affective educational objectives, Rathwell, Bloom, and Marcia in 1964. So, firstly, it came in 1956, then it was affective. Cognitive part came in 1956, affective part came in 1964, and then psychomotor part came in 1969. Okay, remember this. Cognitive
1956.
and affective educational objectives
1964.
and psychomotor educational objectives.
1969.
Very good, all the students. Now, Bloom's taxonomy divides educational objectives into three domain: cognitive, described as knowing head; affective, described as feeling heart; and psychomotor, described as doing hand. So, what I was telling you, it is something cognitive, and then heart, that is affective, what you are feeling. Okay, something is there in the content in the chapter that student must feel about it. So then we are covering the affective educational objective, and there is something that student must do with hands. Student must do practice with it. So then we are describing it as doing something in action. So this is called using hand or psychomotor domain of educational objectives. Now there are something students, there is something instructional and educational objectives. All right, so the instructional objectives are identified after analyzing the content to be taught, because teaching is a meaningful and purposeful activity. So instructional objectives are actually analyzed after the content to be taught, because something is there which we have to analyze, that what is the instructional planning, what type of teaching method, what type of actually teaching material, teaching aid material, what thing you are going to use in the classroom. The educational objectives imply the changes that we try to produce in the child. So there is a difference, students, so always be clear. Instructional objectives are different and educational objectives are different. Understand it very clearly. Instructional objectives are actually analyzed how the content is going to be taught, in what way, how the teacher is taking the help of the infrastructure, and how the teacher is well planned. This talks about instructional planning. But when we are talking about educational objectives, then it is clearly related to the behavioral changes that we are expecting among our students to happen. Okay, so this is the basic difference that you must remember when you are actually having the idea of instructional and educational objectives. So let's have educational objectives and instructional objectives in a comparison mode. So educational objectives are very broad. When you are talking about educational objectives, you are covering all the levels like cognitive, affective, and psychomotor, and you are preparing your children for something like behavioral changes should be there. But students, instructional objectives are very specific. You have to be specific in a particular topic, like science and Hindi cannot be taught in the same way. Do you think they can be taught in the same way, science and Hindi?
No, ma'am.
No, not at all. Okay, so this is something that you should keep up line in your mind, that there is a difference. So educational objectives, when we are talking, social philosophy is the main source of objectives. So social philosophy is something that we are actually concerned with the social aspects of the children, that whatever they are doing, whatever they are applying your knowledge, whatever you have taught, they are applying it in their real life situations also, and life is related to the social well-being also. So it cannot be separated. But when we are talking about instructional objectives, then psychology is the source of the objectives. I made students minded that this is the particular question you will have in your UGC NET exams also, because psychology is related to instructional objectives and social philosophy is related to educational objectives. Remember this difference. So they imply, the educational objectives imply the teaching objectives, whatever you are having, particular lesson plan, today's lesson plan, today's educational objectives. But the educational objectives are achieved with the help of these objectives, which are instructional objectives. I have planned everything. My objective is clear, that I'm going to tell my students in SST about the map and globe of the world. I'm going to tell them today. But if I'm not having the globe or map with me, then instructional objective will not be fulfilled. Are you understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Then educational objectives, they can be achieved within a long period of duration. Behavioral changes, it takes time to come up. Even you people, when you are now you are in second semester, now you are showing some good change. Those who are really very regular, you are showing good positive changes, but it will take time, and instructional objectives can be achieved within a period of classroom of teaching also. So it is a long term, it is a short term. Then educational objectives, all subjects of school are concerned with these objectives. The school and instructional objectives, so the school subjects have their specific instructional objectives. In which subject, just tell me, in which subjects do we have the laboratories? Just tell me, students.
Science.
Very good. And in which subject we have language lab?
English and Hindi.
Very good. English, Hindi, Sanskrit, French, German, any other language you name it, you will be having a wonderful language lab. Okay, so this is something related to the particular subject. So again, educational objectives are examples of personality development, feeling of national integration among the students. So these are the examples of educational objectives, that I'm going to inculcate the patriotism among my students. This is my educational objective. But the examples like knowledge, skill, and interested, you are introducing them with the facts. So these are the instructional objectives. Now students, just have a look on this. Earlier it was believed that education was a bipolar process, and only teacher and student were in main concern. Okay, but later Bloom put forward this tripolar theory, which is really very interesting. Now Bloom introduced the importance of content also. So this triangle which you can see on my screen, teacher, student, and content, it is actually the main base of our today's education system. It is not like that only teacher student are interacting. No, there is something called content also, so which is actually uh, causing behavioral changes, which we are relating to the educational objectives. Okay, so it is very important, which Bloom actually forwarded to. Now let's see the cognitive domain first of all. Yes, can you see it clearly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is the hierarchy of 6 levels is given students. Just see from the lower to upper part. So first of all, knowledge is given, and then cognitive means head, means intelligence, something which is working on their head. Okay, so knowledge, then comprehension, then application, then analysis, then synthesis, and evaluation. These 6 parts are learned in a hierarchy. Okay, so first of all, knowledge, the lower part is knowledge, and when the student is actually your student is actually learned how to solve the problem, how to evaluate any particular problem or a particular situation, then it is the highest level of cognitive domain. Okay, so let's understand it one by one. Knowledge means the recall of specific terms, which we are calling facts. You cannot change them. So action verbs which include in knowledge are know, define, memorize, repeat, list. These are the action verbs which are related to the knowledge. Students, remember, when you prepare the lesson plans, you have shortage of your these action verbs. So you please remember it, and if you want to note down, you can note down also. So knowledge is knowledge action verb: know, define, memorize, repeat, and list. Now second thing is comprehension. So here the students are able to recall. Recall is pratyasmaran in Hindi, but can do a little more, paraphrase, discuss to some extent. Like, I have recalled, okay, I have learned this content earlier, okay, I have recalled it, okay, now I can tell little more about it. So this is comprehension. Okay, understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, where are the other students? Action verbs. Now, what are the action verbs of comprehension? Discuss, describe, explain when you are discussing any content, describing, explaining, recognizing, and identifying any objects. So this is related to comprehension. Okay. Now next is application. For application, we can take information and use it in concrete situation. Application is something applying your knowledge in real situations or different situations, what you have learned in classroom situations. Okay, so in action application part, the action verbs are related to translate. If you are translating something, if you are interpreting something, if you are applying your knowledge, if you are employing something, if you are using something, so these are all the action verbs related to application part. Students, understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
Now this is something, analysis. Now next part is analysis, that is fourth part of cognitive domain. Now students, this breaks down a communication into constituent parts, revealing the relationship among them. Analysis, I mean students, you know it very well. What is analysis? Yes, any one of you, what is analysis? What is analysis? Now see,
Ma'am, where we break down the content into parts.
yes, Archita, okay. uh, So distinguish, analyze, differentiate, compare, contrast. When there are two things or more than two things, two groups or more than two groups, then you are distinguishing between them. Then you are analyzing, you are making categories. Okay, this is high, this is low, this is fat, this is thin. You are just analyzing. This is bad, this is good. You are differentiating. Then you are comparing. Okay, the climate of Rajasthan and climate of Uttar Pradesh, you are just analyzing. You are making a contrast in that. So this is something you are doing the part of analysis in cognitive domain. Now see students, synthesis. This process pulls together many disorganized elements parts so as to form a whole. Now you have learned so many things and now you have to compile it in a wonderful way. So action verb: compose, propose, develop, formulate, arrange. All these are actually used in synthesis. Then come to evaluation, that is the highest part of cognitive. Judgments are made about the value of materials or methods through evaluation. Action verbs: judge, evaluate, value, rate, revise. I repeat: judge, evaluate, value, rate, revise. If you value something after, if your child values something after your teaching, then it means he has learned the evaluation cognitive domain of your Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, so this was cognitive domain of Bloom's taxonomy. Now let's have a look on affective domain, which I told you. Head, heart, or hand? Just tell me.
Ma'am, heart. This is heart.
This is heart. Why heart? Why Bharti, Avni? Why it is related to heart?
Ma'am, because
Ma'am,
affective
it
मतलब
is
feeling से relate हो रहा है.
Very nice. Thank you. Okay, so affective is also having hierarchy in 5 levels. We had 6 levels in cognitive. Now we have 5 levels in affective domain. So first of all, receiving is the lower level and characterization of value set is the highest level. And in between, first of all, lower level, we start receiving something. Then if I have received something, I will respond. Okay, you just imagine that if I'm angry with you, you will receive my anger. Then you will start responding. And if it is worth, you will value. And if it is actually seeking some organization, you will organize something. And then characterization by a value set. So in the same way, students, when you are teaching something, when you are teaching a content, then it is very important for you to do such things in your classroom that students are feeling the content, feeling the importance of content. Okay, so let's have a look on the explanation. Receiving the and just note down the action verbs, students, that I really want you to do it, because these will be helpful in your lesson planning, all subjects lesson planning. And MBA students, you must realize what is going on, because you are going to assist your B.Ed students. So receiving, the person is willing to notice a particular phenomena. So action verbs, if I'm observing something, if I'm becoming conscious, realize, if I'm attending something, if I'm listening something. So receiving part. So when I'm speaking, all of you are receiving or not?
Yes, ma'am.
You, all of you are
Yes, ma'am.
receiving. Okay. Now responding part comes. The responses are made first with compliance, later willingly and with satisfaction. So you are receiving, of course, but some of you must be satisfied and some of you must not be satisfied. So action verbs: comply, you will obey; comply, you will look; you will respond; you will prefer. So many responses will be there. So this is related to affective part, students. Now valuing is the third part. Acceptance of the worth of a thing is known as valuing. Acceptance of the worth. Okay, this content is very meaningful, I'm going to accept it. It is very useful for me, I'm going to have it. So action verbs: feel and participate, enable, initiate, examine. Suppose there is an activity in your department and you are feeling that okay, this activity is really very useful, I'm going to participate in that. In that means you are valuing that, and you are covering the affective domain of Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, so when you are inculcating such feeling among your students, then it is like you are covering the affective domain of your Bloom's taxonomy. Understood this much, students?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now next is organization. This involves organization of values. So many values are there, but organize them. It determines interrelationship and adapts behavior to value system. Like action verbs, you just see: form judgment, relate, weigh, crystallize, regulate. Like sports activity and cultural activity, the child is good in both things, but you have to organize the child's idea of valuing that. So you have to form a judgment, okay, in which part you are more better, okay, in which part you can do excel. But if the child is interested in both, then the timings must be different for participating in both the events. Okay, so next part is characterization. Characterization is something, it generalization certain values into controlling tendencies, students. So controlling tendency emphasizes on internal consistency, how much the particular thing which you are valuing, how much it is important and how much it is going to be useful, how for how long. So later integrates these into a total philosophy of life or worldview. Okay, and the action verbs are ready, change, view, approach, arrive. I repeat, characterization is actually generalization of certain values into controlling tendencies. Okay, I love my country. Fine. Okay, but this is a beautiful value which I possess, but I have to control it to some extent. I'm not a trained soldier, and I cannot go to the border and fight today itself. Can I?
Ma'am.
No. So this is something controlling tendency. Ready, change, view, approach. What kind of approach is there? A positive, negative, critical, arrive. These are some characterization process. So this is about affective domain of Bloom's taxonomy. Now this is about psychomotor domain, students. Psychomotor domain is related to which H? Yes, please tell me.
And ma'am.
And why?
Ma'am, because physical, practical knowledge is used here.
Very good. Anyone else? Anyone else, please? Okay, so let's understand psychomotor domain. Psychomotor domain, Kriyatmak Paksh, which is also called in Hindi. So the psychomotor domain concerns things students might physically do. It is done with physical strength. So the levels of this domain are categorized as reflex actions, first of all, reflexes are something. Okay, I tell you, just pinpoint the particular point, then you have to see that. So reflexes should be strong. Fundamental movements applicable mostly to young children: crawling, running, jumping, reaching, changing direction. If the teacher is saying turn about, turn around, then the children are just turn around it. And if the teacher says okay, straight, move straight, so they are doing it with psychomotor domain. So if you are speaking, if you are running, if you are just creating a good activity which is involving your physical strength also, so it means that you are covering the physical or psychomotor domain of Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, so perceptual abilities that cover in this: catching ball is, if the child is catching the ball, maybe you are a sports teacher and you are telling the child to just catch the ball, so it is related to psychomotor. And if you are teaching your child to hold the pen at primary level, pencil, then it is psychomotor domain. Or you tell them to balance if you are a dance teacher. So so such perceptual abilities are related to psychomotor domain. Just note down all these things. Physical abilities like stop, move, quickly, change, react, these are the words which are related to physical abilities. And then skilled movement: play, hit, dance, swim, dive. So these are all related to skilled movements. If you can swim, this is related to psychomotor domain. If you can run, if you can hit something, if you are a good player, if you are a good basketball player or volleyball player or any other player game which you like, so this is something your skilled movement and it is related to your psychomotor domain. Just tell me, students, if any of your child is writing good poems, which domain it will cover?
Skill movement.
Please repeat your answer, Vishnu.
साइकोमोटर डोमेन में स्किल मूवमेंट में आएगा.
Okay, writing, and can he is he not using his brain for writing the poem? Isn't it both cognitive and psychomotor?
Yes, ma'am. Both.
Yes,
Ma'am, both cognitive and psychomotor.
both, because the person is using head also. And why not affective? Why not affective? The student is feeling to write down something. Just think about it. Is it?
Yes, ma'am.
So
Three domains.
all three will cover. Okay, so these are some references, students. You can go through more content about it. And now this is a very small activity. Read the following passage and answer the questions that follow. Okay, I'm reading this passage. All of you listen very carefully. Very simple. He was a Hindu and an Indian, the greatest in many generations, and he was proud of being a Hindu and an Indian. To him, India was dear because she had represented throughout the ages certain immutable truths. But though he was intensely religious and came to be called the father of the nation which he had liberated, yet no narrow religious or national bonds confined his spirit, and so he became the great internationalist, believing in the essential unity of man, the underlying unity of all religions and the needs of humanity, and more specially devoting himself to the service of the poor, the distressed, and the oppressed millions everywhere. Are you getting something about whom we are talking?
Ma'am,
Mahatma Gandhi.
Very good,
Mama.
students. You are very intelligent. Okay, we are talking about Mahatma Gandhi. So let's understand this quiz type which I have given. Now, see, you have read the passage. How many of you want me to repeat the passage? Anyone? Okay, no one. All of you have understood. Now, see, these four questions are different, covering different level, and in what way? Just understand. Now, in first question, who is the person mentioned in the passage?
Mahatma Gandhi.
Mahatma Gandhi, and this question is related to which domain?
Cognitive.
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 Cognitive and knowledge level. Why? Because when
And
I
we are
was reading
recalling
it, when I told you that when I read this line, father of the nation, then you recall, oh, ma'am is talking about Mahatma Gandhi, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So this happens in the classroom. This happens. Students recall, okay, समझ में आ गया मुझे what ma'am is talking about. So this is covering knowledge part and cognitive part. Now the second thing, was India dear to him?
yes,
Explain
ma'am.
in your own words. Again, it is cognitive and it is covering the comprehension level. Are you understanding, students, how it is covering the comprehension level? Bharti, was India
Recall
dear to him?
रिकॉल किया मैम कि आपने क्या बोला था वो पैराग्राफ में फर्स्ट टाइम में.
So, according to the paragraph, what the teacher has taught, what the teacher has done, so the actually the concept is clear to the students. Was India dear to him or not? So he is comprehending, he is understanding that knowledge. Okay, so this is again related to cognitive part. He is framing some concept in the mind. So next is, which of his values would you like to develop in your day-to-day life? Now I'm asking, how will you be inspired, or which of his values would you like to develop in your day-to-day life? It means you have to feel something if you want to value something, isn't it, students? So this
Yes,
is
ma'am.
covering your
Yes, ma'am.
affective part and characterization level, where we characterize something and then we accept the value. Okay, suppose you like a teacher and you want to become like a teacher, and you want to teach like that particular teacher. It means you are receiving the value and you are making the characterization level. You are covering that level of affective domain of Bloom's taxonomy. Understanding, students, these are the type of questions which you are also going to frame according to the Bloom's taxonomy. Now see, next, examine the following sentences. He became the great internationalist. How far is this true? This means how it is affective and valuing level. He became the great internationalist, sorry. How far is this true? You have read the passage. The students have gone through the content and the students are understanding it. Teacher is creating their understanding. Teacher is enabling the students to understand the particular way. So the students are now valuing the idea that okay, he became the great internationalist, and because this was Mahatma Gandhi's journey, started from this point and finished on this point. So this is something that students you must take in care. Okay, so this was all about Bloom's taxonomy. Now just tell me, students, that how many of you have understood Bloom's taxonomy, and if there is any problem you can ask me. Yes. Any one of you having any problem? Okay, just tell me. Just tell me, students. Now I want to ask some questions. Who gave the Bloom's taxonomy? Hurry up.
Benjamin Bloom.
Benjamin Bloom.
Benjamin Ash Bloom. Very nice. How many levels were there? How many domains were there?
3, ma'am.
Please name
Three.
them. Please name those three domains.
Cognitive domain, affective domain,
Affective
and
domain,
psychomotor.
psychomotor domain.
Okay, so first is cognitive, second is affective, third is
Psychomotor, ma'am.
psychomotor. Yes, please. What do you know about 3H? Now, Bharti and Avani will not answer. Please, anyone else? Yes,
Head,
what do
heart,
you?
and hand.
Yes, Archita. Head, heart, and hand. Please tell me from head these 3H how they are related to Bloom's taxonomy.
Ma'am, head because head is related to cognitive domain because where our mind is we use our minds.
Hmm.
Heart is related to affective because feelings are there, and
Hmm.
psychomotor is related to physical strength. So hand is there. It is related to the head.
Okay, just tell me, in cognitive part, how many levels are there?
Ma'am, 6.
Yes, please name those six. Name those six parts. Okay, how many parts in affective domain?
5.
Five. Very nice, very nice. So, students, just tell me that if you want to inculcate, just tell me if you want to inculcate good values about sports activities, you want to inculcate good feelings about sports activities in your school among your students, which domain it would be covering, which type of objective? Yes, tell me.
Educational objective.
Educational objectives. Okay, very good. So please tell me if there is any change in educational objective or instructional objective. Is there any difference?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, educational objective is used for analyzing the content that teacher is going to teach and how he or she. Sorry, ma'am. This is of instructional objective. This is related to instruction. And ma'am, in educational objective, we check the behavior of the students, how they will react to the knowledge we are giving them.
Okay, so what do you think that behavioral objectives or the educational objectives are important for a teacher when he or she plans for the teaching?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so please tell me that how would you make behavioral changes in your students regarding any topic?
Ma'am, by asking questions, by
Very
interacting
good.
more in the classroom.
Hmm.
By
Okay.
the feedback.
Okay, so I hope all of you have understood about Benjamin as Bloom's